places. Um, Look at Ukraine and how long the war with Russia has been going on. Um, and nobody knows when that's going to end or what. We've sent them billions upon billions of dollars, and that's kind of I think the American people, in my opinion, have really been slapped in the face with that because we're sending billions over there. But then I heard the vice president, Kamala Harris, come out and say that they were giving victims that got impacted by Hurricane Helene $750 apiece. Now, guys, you never see me on this program really get into politics or talk about any of that. But, somebody's got to say something about all this stuff. And I don't really care whether you're Democrat, Republican, independent, conservative, liberal. I don't really care. I have friends that are on every side of the aisle there is. And we don't agree on everything, but there's some basic things that I found that every one of us agree on. We agree that we should be taken care of. And when you're giving billions upon billions upon billions of dollars to foreign countries when our people are suffering, the devastation that just happened in North Carolina and upper East Tennessee, where there's complete towns wiped off the map, where there's no way into a lot of people, they're stranded, and you're saying you're going to give each one of them $750, and you're also saying that FEMA is broke and doesn't have any money, and that's for anybody that doesn't know, FEMA is the Federal Emergency Management Agency. You're saying it's broke, but yet we can still send billions of dollars to other countries? I think that's total BS. And I think that no matter which side of the aisle you're on, that you can agree that that's absolute slap in the face to the American people. And my thoughts and prayers are with everyone affected by Hurricane Helene every day. I'm so glad that here in Knoxville we didn't see any of that devastation, but our neighbors did. And it's just a tragedy. If we talk about what's going on in Israel with the Palestinian conflict and Hamas and everybody else, I don't care what you believe, and I'm going to tell you now, and I'll stand here and say it because guess what? A long time ago I heard you got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. If you're going against Israel in this fight, then go ahead and unsubscribe to the show. I could really give a crap less. It does not matter to me because you're on the wrong side of history. Palestine, number one, has never been a country, ever. They've been offered solutions to this problem for decades and they've said no to them all because all the Palestinians care about is wiping every Israeli off the face of the map. Now, everybody was up in arms when Germany tried to kill all the Jews. And we all agree, I think, for the most part, that the Holocaust was one of the most tragic events in history. But the Palestinians and Hamas and all these other people want the exact same thing. Where's the outrage now? And I'm going to be totally honest, I believe in freedom of speech. If there wasn't freedom of speech, I couldn't get on here and tell you my opinion. But I believe that in this country, if you're yelling death to America, that you're flying any other flag in this country above the United States of America's flag, you should be kicked out and go to another country. And, oh, you're bigoted, you're racist. No, I'm not. I stand for the damn country that I was born in. We forget that this country is a sovereign country. Yes, I'm all for people coming to this country if they do it legally. I love all people. I have friends, I think, of almost every descent there is. I have friends of many different sexual orientations, and we're friends. Do we agree on everything? No. But we're still friends. We have civilized conversations. And what's funny is I find when we get civilized conversations with each other that we agree on a whole lot more than we don't. And I love those friends as much as I love anybody else. And they're free to identify or be whatever they want to be. Now, within reason, because I believe if what they're doing harms another person against their will, that no one has the freedom. And I don't care at that point in time what you identify as. Whether you're a white Christian, whether you're whether you believe in Islam, whether you are gay, straight, or whatever. If you're intentionally harming another person in a way, I don't care what you are. You should be punished for that. And no, you don't have a right to harm other people. I've always had a philosophy, and the people that know me know this, that I treat everyone like I want to be treated. Unless you give me a reason not to, and we can go down that road. But that's tough. And somebody's going to get their feelings hurt, or somebody's going to get physically hurt, or something's going to happen. Now, before you say, he's talking about physically hurting people. No, I'm not. I'm telling you what we're seeing on TV every day. It's like we live in a world right now where you can't disagree with someone without them getting their little feelings hurt and wanting to attack you physically or cancel you or try to take your livelihood away or worse, they attack your family. And you have a lot of people that sit behind their keyboards, they're keyboard warriors as we call them, because they don't have the guts to have a face-to-face discussion. And there is no debate with a lot of these people. They're tolerant as long as you believe what they do. The minute that you disagree and say, well, I disagree, but that's okay, we can. No, we can't. You have to agree with what I say. No, I don't. And screw you if that's what you believe, because you're so delusional it's unreal. So looking around at some of the headlines today, talking about the state of the world in chaos. One of the biggest headlines today, state official lashes out at Biden admin over depleted FEMA relief funds spent on migrants. So here's another consequence of just letting everybody in the country illegally we've spent thousands upon thousands, hundreds of millions of dollars on them. And now when the American peoples who were born and raised here or who immigrated to this country legally are now needing money, the federal government says there's none for them to have. How did we get here, folks? I'm going to tell you how, because people cared more about their damn feelings than they did reality. You know, we've had more school shootings. We've had so many things happen. So here's the deal. When we started giving out participation trophies, I said this is where we would end up. Because we have created a generation of people who believe they're entitled. They're entitled to have what everybody else has. There are no winners, no losers. Equity, equity, equity. Everybody should be equal. Well, that's not a fact of life. It's never worked anywhere. It never will. There are winners and losers. Back when I was growing up, we knew that. We didn't get participation trophies. If we lost, we went out and worked harder to get better so maybe we could win at whatever it was we were doing. We didn't need a pat on the back. We didn't need somebody to stroke our ego. We didn't need a safe space to go to. And people talk about being bullied today. Oh, my God. The generation that whines and cries and needs safe spaces and complains about being bullied, you couldn't have survived the Gen X generation. Bullied all the time. I grew up in a household of women. My dad walked out when I was 13 weeks old. What a crap-ass move, huh? And I was raised by my mom, my grandmother, and some other family members, but mainly the influence was women. So I was a little more sensitive. I went through school being called a faggot, a queer, you name it, I was called it. Just because I was more sensitive than most guys were. Never had dad around who really got me into sports or any of that stuff. And when I was younger, I was sick, so I wasn't very good at those things anyway. And so I know about getting bullied. It happened every day. And I grew up believing that I didn't have to fight everybody and didn't have to have conflicts and stuff, so I tried to avoid fights. Until I finally got old enough that I realized I couldn't do that forever. And I started defending myself, and then I was the bad guy. So again, it's generations of people who believe that it's okay for them to do what they want, and you're below them. Then when you stand up for yourself, everything's your fault. Now that happens to somebody, and they need their safe space, or they go out and want to shoot a school up. I call BS. I call that mental health, and there's no toughness, and we've not taught a whole generation of people how to be tough because there's no consequences to people's actions. So I know I'm a little all over the place, but it's just there's a reason why the world is where it is. Now, I'm not talking about the natural disasters. We can get into whatever you want to there, but the whole thing that with Helene and what it's done to especially North Carolina and upper East Tennessee is it's horrible. We're over 200 people dead in the Southeast, and that number's still going to rise. And talking about the whole thing with over in Israel. So I don't know if you guys saw it, but there was a woman that was kidnapped by ISIS when she was 11. And it was 10 years ago, from what I understand, was just rescued during the Israeli-U.S. operation in Gaza. I think it was in Gaza. I may be wrong about where it was, but she was rescued after all that time. So it's not just what happened on October the 7th of last year. This has been going on for decades over there. And if you think it's okay for anybody just to go in and kidnap people and take them hostage, especially children, even though that's exactly what we're letting happen right here in the U.S. with coming across our southern border, I've seen so many different numbers. I think the last one I saw was 300,000, or I've seen 30,000, I've seen 300,000. I don't know how many kids are missing in this country because of the border policies that we have, but it's a lot. And nobody knows where they're at. And who knows what's happening to those children. But if we say we need to close our borders and make everybody come legally, we're called racist, we're called bigots, we're called all kinds of things. Well, screw you. I really don't care what you think. And guess what? Nobody cares if you're offended. Again, I have friends from other countries that have come here legally. They've done it right. They're good, productive people. And I love them dearly. Again, I agree with what J.D. Vance said the other night. Let's deport the people who have committed crimes and entered the country illegally. Let's get rid of them first. It's about 1 million people that we know of right now. They're not here to work. They're not here to be productive in our society. So why are they here? Why do we allow them to stay? Why do they get out on bail? How many more of our young women and mothers have to die until the American people have enough? It's just, I don't know what to say about the state of the world. We are in chaos. We know that without a shadow of a doubt, I mean, what Iran firing the missiles at Israel the other day, I have no doubt that Israel will retaliate. Now, whether you like Donald Trump or not, I really don't care. But when he was in office, yes, he did not say things properly. He didn't. He was abrasive. Uh, he needed to tone it down, in my opinion. But the world was safe. The economy was great. And we were becoming more prosperous. But a whole lot of people didn't like that he was kind of vile, abrasive, verbally abusive at times, and they just didn't like what he said. But we were safe, the economy was great, and we prospered. So I'll ask the question that everybody else has asked. Are you as good off now, are you as well off now as you were 3.5 years ago? And anybody that says yes must be living isolated in a bubble somewhere. I have customers and friends and family every day that talk about the cost of how everything's went up. Food, gas, housing, you name it. Oh, it's because of the pandemic. Bullshit. We should have recovered from that quite a while back. We've not. Everybody wonders why there's so many Democrats, people who have been lifelong Democrats, moving over to the Republican side. Because the Democratic Party is not the party they used to be. And then I look at what some of our college students and stuff are saying. They get interviewed and they have no clue about the history of this country. They have no clue what they're talking about. They're stupid, and they are, and I'm sorry, it's just what it is. Not all of them. There are some very bright young people out there, very smart young people. It just seems like the majority of the ones that get talked to on the street are stupid. They don't know. I don't even know why they're in college. I'll be honest, because they've not learned anything. That or the colleges are just dumbing them down. It's one of the two. Talk about the strike for a minute, the longshoreman strike and what that's going to do to the supply chain. If it goes on for long, the supply chain was bad during COVID. It's going to be far worse if this strike goes on. I was looking today at the people who are affected by it. GM, General Motors, is one. Mercedes is another. LG Electronics. There's a whole lot more. But what that's going to mean for our business here at Knox Horizon is that within a few short weeks, we're going to have a harder time to get parts than we do now. And we already have a hard time sometimes finding parts still. I mean, the pandemic really did that to us. It put it to a point where we have a hard time still getting parts and stuff for some of the cars we have to repair. And customers get upset with us. It's not our fault. We don't manufacture the parts, but we can't get them. We had a Chevrolet Suburban in here that had a brake hydraulic failure. The hydraulic booster on the brakes went out. Not only has it been discontinued, but there's none of the aftermarket solutions available. What do? There's not even a rebuild kit to it. We can't even rebuild it. We can't find anybody that rebuilds them. So we have a customer now that has a Chevrolet Suburban that nobody can fix because there's not a part available. And we have to give him that bad news. So what's going to happen with the strike? Supply chains are shut down. Then you have the fact of the Interstate 40 between here and North Carolina is washed out, and it'll be over a year before it's reopened, so that cut off a major supply chain for trucks. Interstate 26 between between Asheville and Upper East Tennessee's washed out. That'll take at least over a year to repair. So our supply chain's been affected by a whole lot of things. And prices are going to go higher. And I was listening the other day, and he was one of the union presidents, I believe, said that he didn't care to cripple everything. So basically, I took that to mean that he didn't give a crap about his fellow man. He didn't give a crap about the rest of us. Now, I'm sure they have some legitimate gripes. They're asking for a 75% pay increase. I have no idea what they make right now. I know they were offered a 50% pay increase. Now, to put that in perspective, and I want you to think about it. So if you're somebody that's making $40 an hour, I'll just use that number. 50% increase brings you up to $60 an hour. That's one hell of an increase. How much is enough? And if you get 75% increase, then prices on everything go up. The rest of us don't get an increase. We have to charge more. And there's already businesses all around this country that's filing bankruptcy and going out that's been around for years. Big Lots, Red Lobster, and others. Because of where the economy's at. What the hell does anybody think this strike is going to do? Guys, we're at a point that there's got to be a change. There's got to be a breaking point. There has to be something that gets us out of where we're at. And I'm just going to tell you, you have every right to vote for who you want to. But if you're going to vote for Kamala just because she's a woman, then you're a moron, in my opinion, because you're voting on something that doesn't damn well matter in this country. I'd vote for a woman if she were qualified for the job. But it's not Kamala. Have you ever noticed it's funny? We say that we need to get rid of the old white men and we need to get rid of the old people and stuff, but not one young person steps up to run for president. And if they do, the established parties knock them down. American people, you want to push for something to fix some of these problems? Force Congress to enact term limits on themselves. And term limits to the point of once you're out, you're out. You can't set out a term and rerun. Unfortunately, that's what some people think term limits are. We've had this come up here locally. We got term limits put on the sheriff's office here in Knox County. So the sheriff at the time got forced out to do term limits. Somebody else won, they come in. So he set out a term and thought he could run again and run against them, and it was perfectly fine. That's not what term limits are for. Term limits are you're done. Politics and civil service was never meant to be for life. It was meant you go serve your term and go back and be a productive member of society. There are people who had nothing when they went into politics and have come out wealthy beyond our imaginations. And they will do or say anything to stay in power and keep that power. And you keep letting them do it. Yeah, I'm talking to every American out there. If you don't vote, then you've got a problem if you're eligible to vote. If you keep voting for somebody because, they don't hurt my feelings, but the other person does, look at the damn records and what they've done. I don't care if somebody hurts my feelings. I can live with that. I can't live with having to pay double the price I should on gas, double the price I should on food. We're going to get to a point where nobody can afford anything because wages won't keep going up forever. They can't. There's no money there. The country's trillions of dollars in debt. At some point, somebody's going to call in that marker. But unfortunately, we've been told that people's feelings is more important than reality. And people think if their poor little feelings get hurt, that's just, oh no. Well, screw you and your feelings. You know, my feelings get hurt every day, and I don't go whine and cry about it. I pick myself up, I dust myself off, and I move on. But that's me. Guys, this wasn't, I know I've kind of been all over the place, but I've got the question. I'd love to hear your comments on this. Are you better off than you were 3.5 years ago?